Welcome to Gardner History Garden's AP Human Geography podcast. In episode 3, we're exploring Unit 3, Culture, Patterns, and Processes. Culture shapes our identity, influences our interactions, and impacts the physical and social landscapes of our world. Understanding cultural diffusion, language, religion, and identity is key to making sense of global human geography. We'll break down the major concepts of culture, how it spreads, and how it influences everything from language and religion to ethnicity and popular trends. By the end of this episode, you'll have a strong grasp of how culture interacts with geography and how these topics appear on the AP exam. Culture is the shared practices, technologies, attitudes, and behaviors of a society. You have two different types that will be covered: material culture and non-material culture. Material culture are things like objects, tools, and architecture, things that are tangible, you could touch. Non-material culture are things like beliefs, traditions, and values. These are non-tangible items that are usually ideas. The cultural landscape, this is how human activity modifies the physical environment, like their cities, their agricultural patterns, religious structures, things like that. When we're looking at the spread of culture, we're looking at diffusion. There's different types of diffusion. We have relocation diffusion. This is when people move and bring their culture with them. Think of the spread of Spanish in Latin America. There's expansion diffusion, so this is the spread of culture without migration. Within expansion diffusion, there's a couple different ways that it will spread. You have hierarchical diffusion. This is the spread through influential figures or places, like fashion trends from Paris to smaller cities. You have contagious diffusion. This is rapid and widespread. This is usually like a viral internet trend or pandemics. Stimulus diffusion. This is a cultural trait that spreads but adapts to a new condition. Think of McDonald's that is spread over the world but has different menu items based on where they are, specific to that area and culture. Other things covered in this unit are things like language and its role in culture. We're going to talk about language families. These are languages that share similar backgrounds and structures, like Indo-European, Sino-Tibetan, and Afro-Asiatic. You have the idea of the lingua franca, which is a common language used for communication. So English is usually a lingua franca used in global business. You also see languages like German or Chinese as well, used as in global business. You have endangered and revived languages like Welsh, Hebrew, and Hawaiian. And it talks about why preserving languages matter. They matter because it's that preservation of culture and a way of life for people. You have toponyms. These are the place names and their cultural significance, like New Orleans, reflecting French influence. Also covered in this chapter is religion and its geographic patterns. You have universalizing religions. These are things like Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism, which spread widely and seek converts. They're trying to make a statement across the world. You have ethnic religions like Hinduism and Judaism that is tied to a specific region and limited in their diffusion. This unit also talks about sacred spaces and places of worship like Jerusalem, Mecca, the Ganges, and why they're important to these places. It also talks about religious conflicts that have taken place in the world, like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and the partition of India. We also see the definitions of ethnicity and identity. We're going to see the growth of things like ethnic enclaves. These are neighborhoods with concentrated cultural groups in a larger city. Usually this is where we see people settle after they have emigrated to different places like Chinatown or a Little Italy. Cultural identity and assimilation change depend on how individuals interact with that area. We see things like assimilation. This is when a minority culture adopts the traits of that dominant culture. They kind of throw off the base of their home culture and try to be more like the big C culture that they're coming into. You have acculturation. This is when cultures interact but maintain distinct identities. And then you have syncretism. This is a blending of cultural elements. So things like Tex-Mex or like fusion cuisine, that's an example of that. You have things like folk culture. These are traditional, rural, and localized, like Amish communities or indigenous places and spaces throughout the world. You have popular culture. So these are things that are usually mass-produced, rapidly changing, and are global. So think of things like social media trends and fast food chains. We also are seeing cultural imperialism. This is the dominance of one culture over another. So this could be an example of the spread of Western media and fashion throughout the world. When using this unit in your test, you can use some memory tricks. One cultural acronym is things like CLAP. So these are CLAP, C-L-A-P, C being cultural traits like language, religion, and traditions. L, the landscape. So this is modifications like buildings, farms, and sacred sites. A is acculturation, assimilation, and syncretism, so how cultures interact with the place around them. And P, pop versus folk culture. So is this a mass culture idea or is it more traditional? For diffusion, you can think of HERCS, HERCS, or hierarchical. So diffusion happens hierarchical or top down. Expansion can happen by spreading outward. It can happen through relocation. It's also known as migration. It can happen through contagious, like rapid and widespread, and stimulus, adapting ideas. Be familiar with different diffusion processes and their examples. Be sure to be able to identify how language, religion, and ethnicity shape regions. An example of a short answer question you may see may be something like, explain one way folk culture resists globalization. You can use examples like the Amish rejecting modern technology and how they've stayed in their ethnic enclaves as a safe haven. An example of a DBQ prompt might be to evaluate the role of globalization and cultural change. You can use evidence from media, trade, and migration. And a long essay question example might be to compare and contrast the diffusion of two major world religions. Be sure to structure your answer with causes, methods of diffusion, and impacts. If you need a description on these different world religions, you can look through our channel. There is a playlist for world religions that go through some brief ideas, beliefs, and diffusion as well if you need some help with that background. So some key takeaways. Cultural influences everything from daily life to global conflicts. Understanding diffusion is key to explaining how ideas spread. Globalization and technology shape cultural landscapes. Use cultural landscape examples to tie concepts together and practice mapping language and religion distributions. That's it for episode 3. Next, we're diving into political patterns and processes, how borders are formed, why countries compete for power, and what political geography means for the world today. Keep studying, and we'll see you next episode.